What's up, friends? I'm gonna give it to you straight. The biggest feature in 3.14, save it doesn't get delayed in my opinion, is the addition of FPS and ship scanning, radar, and ping in a very real way. Let me explain everything we know and what you might be able to expect in our first feature deep dive looking at Alpha 3.14. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. A huge slew of changes are coming to the radar, scanning, and ping, or RSP system soon, and we'll need to pay a lot more attention to our ships and how they work. Before we get into what's coming, let's talk about how the feature began and has progressed over time. While vehicle emissions were displayed in Alpha 2.6 and prior, radar, scanning, and ping didn't really play a part in the game until 3.2 back in 2018, when the Prospector was added with the ability to mine, which scanning was needed to support. It was quickly iterated on and added to all other vehicles, and was improved over time to show scanning confidence and details of your targets like owner and crew list. But it didn't receive some very nice graphic effects that were shown but not used, wasn't really formed into a proper feature, didn't work consistently or in a user-friendly manner, never worked for ground vehicles or during FPS play, and just wasn't a satisfying experience. Because of all of this, it has never felt like a real full attempt at an actual feature, and it has never felt very useful or interesting in its current form, even for an exploration addict like myself. As it is now, and as it will continue after the new update, the RSP system relied on three obvious points of action. The radar is responsible for passively finding and tracking contacts just by being turned on. It is your sphere of awareness. Ping actively finds additional contacts or highlights volumes of space to investigate weaker signatures. This is your calling out, your pulse into space. It will be directionally controllable, so you can narrow the field of view to focus more on a specific area, giving you more range and the ability to get more information. Each signal found appears in a blob of varying size based on how accurate your location data is. These two aspects of ping combined mean you'll need to narrow down what you are looking for without giving away your position to everybody else. As more features surrounding this gameplay come online, you're going to want to be careful with this one. Scanning is probing for information about a specific entity. This is even more dangerous and invasive than the ping, and is meant to be the final step in acquiring a target. This will include a certain amount of depth, as some information may be shielded or more difficult to acquire. You may be forced to use scanners that may use too much power for your shields to stay up. You know, trade-offs. Now that we have an idea of how the system works, let's dive into the details of each aspect, and look at how this system is meant to act in the grand scheme of Star Citizen. Scanning at a deeper level will always require a contact to be on the radar before it can unlock information. This information would obviously be unlocked to the radar through pinging. So as shown before, the process of target awareness goes ping to find the target and place it on the radar so that it can be scanned. This is not a necessity though. Yes, there's an option of active detection, which is signature detection through an action such as pinging or scanning, which allows you to see targets further out but leaves you more exposed. But there is also passive detection, which is simply receiving a signal via your radar, and can be done almost completely silently. This is one of the tropes of deep space sci-fi fiction, and it'll be key for the devs to capitalize on this during gameplay. Speaking of detection and signals, the scanning gameplay will be, obviously, based heavily on signal strengths and the interactions between those signals. And I gotta say, deciphering messages and signals by manipulating proper waveforms against one another with analog input would be absolute juice. But I fear it may be something more simplified in line with the current in-game signals. In the end, we do know that signal strength will matter, but how exactly? Well, let's take a simple scenario. If you have a passive radar strength of 10,000 meters, and there was a ship out there putting out a signal of 1,000 at a distance of 10,900 meters, you would detect that ship, but you would only detect it at a strength of 100. So you'll get a very general idea of what's in the area, but you'll need to focus your scans more to get the full picture. Essentially, you'll always be scanning and searching for the signals emitted by ships, and not the ships themselves. With that knowledge, we can see how deep scanning and exploration gameplay can go, and of course how signals can interact to create situations for different players. Let's take stealth. Being within the vicinity of a larger ship or entity emitting a stronger signal than your own, you can completely mask your own signals from others. At short distance, you will also be able to disrupt cross-sectional scanners by simply moving behind an object. You can also simply turn your own emissions down until they are hidden in the ambient conditions. At some point, these conditions will be affected by the aforementioned other ships, space stations, stars, gas clouds, planets, and other anomalies. These emissions as well as the ambient conditions will both be made apparent on the UI reworks in the future. This gameplay will create a cat and mouse scenario in gas clouds and other dangerous locations like the coil. While one player may hide well in the ambient conditions, they're still vulnerable to a ping. However, the chase will be on as they are informed of the hunter's intent. It has also been discussed the possibility of scanner jammers and other forms of counterintelligence e-warfare, but we'll wait to see if that actually becomes a thing before getting too deep into it. It's clear already that outside of the massive boost to exploration folks, this area of gameplay could appeal quite a bit to scouts and the frontline combat pilots looking for some suspense. And it doesn't help if you can't decipher the info you're collecting, and thus, another big fix coming with this year's update. See, ping and radar haven't actually worked together yet, in that if you ping a target and have contact, that information doesn't transfer over to your radar, and it doesn't filter into your ship in any meaningful way. A challenge with a feature like this is that a rather intangible experience will need to be made stimulating to deliver a sense of change and accomplishment.
No! No!
This information will be more valuable than you may think. Data will in the future be storable and attachable to other objects for transfer, and while proper data running is a topic for another day, we do know there's a possibility that we'll be able to transfer all necessary target data to other ships on the fly, leaving the big tasks to those of us who can handle them. And don't worry, you'll be able to block people from seeing some of this data when scanning you, by blocking or even falsifying your transponder data. But getting back to the scanning, let's talk about the physical components themselves, as physicalized components are just around the corner, with work being done on the back end and the front end to make them a possibility. As for the components themselves, radar and ping will reside in a single item, but the scanner will be separate. There will be scanners with variable strengths and abilities and certain specializations, though I'd also be wary of this next implementation. We might not see all of that stuff just yet. Each ship may just have the same basic scanner capabilities, but I'm sure we're going to learn one way or another, along with many other important points before the update finally arrives. And finally, let's not forget that everything I've explained to you here will be duplicated for FPS and ground vehicle gameplay as well. This means not only will you be able to navigate to locations however you please, you'll also be able to know if somebody or something is near you, using what CIG have called the local area map, which you can see on the screen now. If there's any front-end feature being added this update, no, this year, that affects every single player in the game, it's this one. It may not be the deepest, but it is the widest reaching. And that's why I think the navigational system update is the most noticeable feature currently scheduled for 3.14. If you know me, you know scanning, radar, and star map updates are some of the top features on my wish list. So I am more than happy this is a topic we can discuss again. Expect to see more from me on the subject in the near future, and subscribe here for more info, entertainment, updates, and opinions. And if you really like this content and would like to support, you can join my Patreon for some cool perks, like early videos, exclusive cinematics, and typed out monthly reports. Regardless of what you do, I'm super thankful you came to watch this video. I hope you got something from it, and I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Thanks to my top supporters TK, Valiant15, Ben N, The Alpaca, The Huntress, Holston Coop, Valkus Vipus, Dasek, Guilty Conscious, and Extreme Tuber 7.